You think you know the woods. Think again. What happened to me in the heart of South Dakota and Tennessee changed everything I believed about the world. Lean in, and let's unravel this mystery together. Let me begin by introducing myself. I'm not just your average Rick, born and raised in South Dakota. I've spent my entire life embracing the great outdoors. From hunting, hiking, fishing, to every conceivable outdoorsy activity, I've dabbled in them all. My studies in engineering at the South Dakota School of Mines furthered my connection to this landscape, particularly with the Black Hills forests. The Black Hills are a treasure trove of incredible spots, perfect for exploration and camping if you know where to look. However, as much as I'd love to remain outdoors, life, with its obligations, often takes precedence. But back in late October of 2012, when the leaves donned their vibrant autumnal hues, I felt an undeniable urge to escape and recharge. I envisioned a solo camping trip in the Spearfish Canyon area of the Black Hills Forest, particularly near the iconic Devil's Bathtub. And while venturing alone into the wilderness carries its own set of risks, my upbringing and knowledge of these parts made me confident. With all the necessary gear, I treaded an offbeat logging trail towards my dream destination. For those unfamiliar, South Dakota's October weather isn't tropical. Sunset arrives early, especially in canyons with towering walls. Aware of this, I was on the lookout for the perfect camping spot before dusk. As I moved ahead, an overgrown logging trail veered to my right, crowded with aspen and birch trees. No more than 20 yards in, I found a serene fork in the trail, surrounded by a comfortable grassy patch. Considering the rocky surroundings, it felt like nature had carved out this perfect spot just for me. The importance of a good camping site in the wilderness cannot be overstated. Finding this space was akin to striking gold. Eagerly, I began setting up my camp. With the sunset illuminating the sky, casting a myriad of colors, it felt as though Mother Nature was treating me to her very own show. I'm no poet, but even the least sentimental person would be moved by a South Dakota sunset in the Black Hills. With this enchanting sky as my backdrop, I started a fire and began preparing my dinner. As daylight gradually receded, I lit my lantern and hung it near my tent, casting just enough glow to navigate and settle in for the night. My first rookie mistake was forgetting my book in the truck. Anyone who's camped solo knows the nights can stretch endlessly without a good read. Lying in my tent, the sounds of the night surrounded me, but sleep, it seemed, was playing coy. Hours felt like days, and every moment was restless. The only audible noise was the rustling of leaves and the distant hum of a stream, serving to further highlight the silent night. Right when I'd almost abandoned any hope of sleep, my phone, resting on my tent floor, began ringing. Given my location in the canyon, this was certainly unexpected, but as fate had it, I was high enough to have received a few bars of connectivity. Answering, I was met with a voice from the Spearfish Sheriff's Department. My vehicle, parked at the trailhead, had been spotted, and concerns arose regarding a possible distressed hiker. To my surprise, they'd tracked me down through Facebook, never imagined it would be useful while camping, and found my number. Our conversation was a mixture of surprise and relief. The officer, a grounded individual, expressed genuine concern for my safety, especially given the challenging terrains of the area. I reassured him of my familiarity and preparedness. Relieved, he mentioned a search party that was on standby, about to embark on a rescue mission. Expressing gratitude for his vigilance, I pledged to notify him upon my return the following day. Comforted, I dialed my parents, who had been alerted about my disappearance. Clarifying the situation, I assured them of my safety in the canyon. Hoping for rest, sleep continued to evade me. The night was to take an unexpected eerie turn. With the sheriff's call behind me, I tried, yet again, to settle. The forest, draped in darkness, felt more oppressive than ever. A growing sensation hinted that something or someone was observing, waiting for an opportune moment. This marked the start of the true adventure. Believe me, I'm not one to get easily frightened, but the events post that call had me reevaluating my bravery. Settling once more into my sleeping bag, I hoped for some rest. Yet around 11 p.m., a peculiar sound reached my ears. Not just any sound, this was out of place, resembling a bird-like whistle. It sounded eerily similar to a human's whistle, and it came from just east of my campsite. An unsettling feeling crept over me, suggesting something was amiss. It was a loud smack, reminiscent of a tree trunk hitting another. From the south of my tent, the blackness seemed to grow thicker, and my nerves were drawn tight. A mere 15 seconds later, the unmistakable sound of footsteps approached my campsite. Heavy, deliberate, and unmistakably bipedal, these footsteps approached in stark contrast to the gentle rustlings of nature I was accustomed to. And then a potent stench filled the air, a vile blend of skunk and rotting garbage that seemed to pierce the very fabric of the night. Rising panic and adrenaline fueled my reaction. Gripping my hunting knife, I yelled out, a desperate attempt to ward off this nocturnal visitor. Yet what startled me more was the lack of reaction. The entity, or whatever it was, didn't flee. Instead, it seemed to continue its journey, moving towards the source of the earlier tree noise. All I could do was lie still, my heart pounding, trying to make sense of the inexplicable events. In a frantic search for answers, I dialed the sheriff once more. Together, we tried to unravel the mystery, searching for a logical explanation in the habits of local wildlife. Yet the events were beyond comprehension. Even the seasoned sheriff, familiar with the tales and terrain of Dakota, was at a loss. But as unnerving as these events were, the night wasn't done with its mysteries. I was startled awake around 2 a.m. by a succession of tree knocks, this time accompanied by guttural whoops. They echoed from near and far, creating a haunting chorus that seemed to close in from all sides. Clutching my knife, every fiber of my being was on edge, praying for the dawn. The haunting symphony that surrounded me that night seemed to last an eternity, but as all things do, it eventually ceased. The onset of dawn marked the fading of the bizarre concerto of whoops and knocks. With the sun's rays piercing the canopy, my senses gradually came back to the familiar world I knew. Steeling myself, I unzipped the tent, half expecting some nightmarish figure to greet me. Instead, the familiar setting of the forest lay unchanged. It was tempting to dismiss the entire ordeal as a dream, but deep within I knew better. The world outside felt oddly untouched by the previous night's events, and there were no physical signs to confirm the horrors I'd experienced. No footprints, no upturned earth or broken branches. Though the signs were absent, the weight of being watched persisted. My instinct screamed at me to pack up and leave. Hastily, I gathered my belongings, taking down the tent that had been both my prison and my sanctuary. Each rustle of the leaves underfoot felt like a potential warning. Each twig snaps a signal that I was still not alone. Before completely exiting the area, I felt an inexplicable urge to acknowledge the forest and its unseen denizens. Facing the spot that had been my campsite, I whispered a thank you, addressing the unknown entities that had both terrified and captivated me. Whether it was my drained emotional state or an instinctual need to communicate respect, this gesture seemed crucial. I wanted the unseen forces to understand that, though I didn't grasp the magnitude or nature of the encounter, I still recognized and respected their domain. I continued my journey back to my vehicle, my mind awash with thoughts of the night's events. Once I could charge my phone, I called the sheriff again to recount everything that had happened, detailing every memory that I could muster. Like our previous conversations, he seemed just as puzzled and deeply unnerved as I was. However, it was during this discussion that an epiphany struck me. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in these encounters with the unexplained. It dawned on me that I might have had an unexpected brush with the legendary creature, Bigfoot. From that moment onward, each time I ventured into the Black Hills, I remained acutely alert, embracing a newfound respect for the land and the creatures inhabiting it. As time passed, the memories of my experience in the Black Hills persisted, compelling me to seek out others who had similar stories from the same territory. Through close friends and a circle of acquaintances, I came to a startling realization. I wasn't the only one. Many had tales of mysterious figures, unexplained noises, and eerie occurrences that defied rational explanations. One such account, relayed to me by a buddy, took place in June of 2008, years before my own unsettling experience. He'd embarked on his annual camping trip to South Dakota, joining a group of outdoor enthusiasts in the Black Hills. During their trip, a peculiar incident transpired right in their camp, but considering they were miles off any trail. The events of that night seemed even more unusual. Late into the evening, after the rest of the group had retired, my friend was jolted awake by the sound of something, or someone, splashing in the nearby stream. The water's disturbance seemed intentional, echoing the stream's curve. More disconcertingly, he heard the rhythmic clacking of rocks being struck together. Panicking, he hastily grabbed his weapon, loading it in anticipation of confronting whatever was out there. From what he could discern, whatever made the noise was considerably large. Yet the rest of the night passed uneventfully. At dawn, he cautiously stepped out, scouring the area for any trace of the nocturnal visitor. The vast expanse of rocks offered no clues. But one thing was unmistakably clear. An overpowering foul odor permeated the air, reminiscent of decaying animals mixed with the pungency of sun-baked garbage. It wasn't until years later, when I happened to cross a documentary of primates, that I began to understand rock clacking as a potential form of communication. So perhaps my friend genuinely had a Bigfoot experience, or someone was simply playing tricks on him that night. This revelation made me reflect on my own bewildering encounter. My sister had a peculiar story of her own from a vision quest she participated in back in June of 1996. She was assisting on the Cheyenne side of Bear Butte, a state park considered sacred by the indigenous peoples. While waiting alone at the camp, she saw a figure emerge from over the ridge. The entity seemed as startled to see her as she was to see it. In a split second it disappeared, moving at a speed she thought impossible for any human. This encounter profoundly impacted her. She described seeing a large wild man, reminiscent of a Neanderthal, with deep black eyes, a prominent brow ridge, and large lips. The figure was notably hairy. These experiences, combined with my own in the Black Hills, have given me a profound respect for my surroundings. I'm far more cautious now when venturing into the woods. I hope these tales inspire caution, if not a sense of wonder in you too. Always stay safe when exploring the unknown. Growing up on the rural outskirts of Nashville, Tennessee was a true adventure. Back in those days, it was mainly farmland and forests, distant from the bustling city and tourists Nashville now attracts. My younger stepbrother and I embraced the outdoors, from riding mini-bikes in the woods to fishing in local creeks. We were like little raccoons, always up to something. One of our cherished spots was a property in Davidson County, not far from downtown Nashville. My dad was acquainted with the owner, so we visited often. There we would ride our ATVs and practice shooting, always responsibly. A significant attraction was an old logging road that meandered through a valley beside a creek. Overgrown with vegetation, it promised adventure at every turn. One part of this road was particularly intriguing. It featured a sharp dogleg curve. Just as you'd be going straight, the road would suddenly swerve to the right and then sharply back, placing you on the original trajectory. My stepbrother was always apprehensive about my driving, so he would always cling to me for dear life whenever we sped through that section, tucking his head securely between my shoulder blades. We shared many memorable times. He and I, on one particular warm summer day, around noon, we were enjoying the logging road, with the countryside air filling our senses as we rode. We neared that infamous dogleg curve, and, predictably, he buried his face between my shoulder blades, shielding himself from his fears. I couldn't help but smile, feeling the familiar pressure of his head against me. However, as we emerged from the curve and continued along the straight path, something to our left caught my attention. I abruptly slammed on the brakes, the ATV's tires screeching in resistance. To our disbelief, standing a short distance away was a towering, hairy creature. This being was easily 8 to 9 feet tall, standing on two legs, eerily resembling a human. Before my stepbrother could fully understand what was unfolding, the creature swiftly crossed our path, vanishing into the dense underbrush. Disturbed and intrigued, he looked up, trying to catch a glimpse, but it was too late. "What just happened?" he asked, his voice trembling. I was equally shocked and couldn't find the words to explain. Deciding it was best to leave, we hurriedly made our way back home, our heart rates elevated and the atmosphere thick with tension. That night I grappled with whether to tell my dad about our strange encounter. The fear of being dismissed or ridiculed held me back. Lying in bed, the image of the creature replayed in my mind, leaving me to ponder if we had, in fact, witnessed Bigfoot in the Tennessee woods. As weeks turned into months, the incident, although unforgettable, began to feel distant. However, an insatiable curiosity persisted. The burning need for clarity compelled me to return to the site of the encounter months later. My hope was to find footprints or any trace that could corroborate my story, armed with nothing more than my determination and a camera for documentation. I revisited the site on a notably cool afternoon, contrasting the sweltering day of our initial meeting. The woods, silent and tranquil, seemed devoid of secrets. Determinedly, I scanned the vicinity for signs, footprints, broken branches, any hint of the creature's existence. During my search, I stumbled upon a nearly concealed path, overgrown and forgotten. An uneasy sensation enveloped me, yet I pressed on, meticulously scouring the trail for any evidence. Hours slipped by without much to validate my quest, save for the faint trail and an unsettling ambience. Disappointed and with the sun setting, I decided to head home, acknowledging my efforts as fruitless. Yet the recollection of that colossal creature lingered. Hesitant to share my story for fear of mockery, it remained my secret testament to nature's mysteries. Over the years, I found solace in sharing my experience discreetly. To my astonishment, I wasn't alone. A friend regaled me with tales of similar beings. One account spoke of an elder who encountered a bipedal, furry creature during a late-night outing, an encounter that left him paralyzed with fear. Another narrated a chilling incident at Ruskin Cave Recreational Park. A group of children were startled by a creature on the forest's fringe. In a naive gesture, one child offered it candy, only to witness the being extend a human-like hand in acceptance. A fellow enthusiast, self-proclaimed as a Bigfoot expert, upon hearing this story, was convinced the children had encountered a juvenile Bigfoot, known to be more audacious. In another haunting tale, a couple awoke to a monstrous entity peering into their bedroom, its grotesque hands scratching at the window pane, evoking sheer terror. To my brother-in-law, these encounters are best forgotten. As for me, my quest for answers persists. I hold on to hope that, one day, the answers I seek will come to light. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey. And there it is, the chilling tale from the heart of South Dakota and Tennessee. It's a vast world out there with stories and mysteries tucked in its every corner. If you've felt that shiver down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the unknown. Keep your eyes open, stay curious, and until the next time, remember, nature always holds a secret or two.